having our doctors saying that we're fit to do it, and I've demonstrated my abilities and where I'm at, and I'm leaving people up to that choice.
But we haven't heard from your doctors in 6 months.
Well, but you've seen from me every day, and you've seen our campaign going, all across Pennsylvania and having from them.
All right, let's welcome back in our friends and get some reaction. Radio host Christopher Arps is joining us from the Midwest, and political analyst and best-selling author Mark Halperin back with us. By the way, props to that reporter.
Yeah, she did a great job pushing back.
That NBC reporter did a really good job. I wasn't familiar with her now. I think a lot of people weren't familiar with her. But, Mark, as they say, all it takes is one really good interview, and all of a sudden you're on the map. You're on the map.
They do say that in Nevada.
Nevada.
Yeah.
Mark,
here's how you remember. You say, I had a good time in Nevada.
Oh.
Had a good time in Nevada. That's actually...
That's good.
That's like never eat shredded wheat,
What?
right? Isn't that right? You know that one?
No, I don't know that one.
Oh. Okay, Mark, we'll start with you. John Fetterman's health records, this is going to be a story for the next 26 days if he doesn't release them. Why hasn't he done so if he's got nothing to hide?
Well, because he doesn't want to come clean on this, because this is a big doubt that voters have. It's interesting. The Republicans are focusing on Fetterman's health. The Democrats are focusing on Oz not having deep roots in Pennsylvania. But I think for a lot of voters, this is more about inflation and crime and immigration. And that's why I think Oz is doing better. He's narrowed the gap. Republicans are increasingly confident about winning this seat. And while, again, part of it surely is doubts about Fetterman's ability to do the job, I think underneath it, it's more of a basic race than people are treating it, because, again, Fetterman is to the left of a lot of Pennsylvania voters.
Yeah, Chris, Dr. Oz released his medical records, and I think the big question here is if you don't have anything to hide, release the records, right? Just set the record straight and say, here you go, I'm fit to serve.
I agree with that. And for the record, Rob, you know this because you lived in Kansas City. It's Missouri, not Missouri.
Yes,
So
I know that one. I was a resident, so I had to learn that one.
Put that on the record.
Yeah.
I think Oz should, I'm not Dr. Oz, but I think Fetterman should release his medical records. It's very obvious that he is still having some cognitive trouble after his stroke. And the thing about this, in the last few weeks of election is when undecided voters usually start making up their minds on a candidate, especially in a close race like this. And with Fetterman having these types of problems, I think this is going to influence these last-minute undecided voters.
Yeah, I think so. Independents, moderates. But you think about it, look at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, one of the bluest cities, certainly in the state of Pennsylvania, one of the bluest in the country, calling out John Fetterman for not releasing. He said the Gazette saying that Fetterman is hurting himself, Mark, by not releasing these records. I will say, around the time of the May primary, the questions about his health I thought would dissipate. I thought it would be his policies that would be the ultimate undoing of John Fetterman once people started to really focus on this race. Here we are 26 days away, Mark. Dr. Oz, according to the polls, if you buy these polls, is still down by 4 points. Fetterman's policies, he wants to release a third of all Pennsylvania prisoners. He wants safe injection sites all over the state for heroin addicts. And he wants to end life without parole for convicted murderers. Soft on crime policies that are dooming Democrats, Mark, everywhere else.
Well, look, I believe if you look at the data that those things are hurting Fetterman. And I think the health records is an issue for some voters. But again, I think that's more of an inside story. What's hurting Oz as much as anything else is the governor's race, where you've got a Democratic nominee who's far, far ahead. And Oz needs to win a lot of votes who are not voting Republican at the gubernatorial level. And that's a challenge for any candidate, because ticket splitting, even in Pennsylvania where there's a history of it, just isn't that common.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to pivot now to a story. Joe Biden, I want you to take a listen to the soundbite. He says he lost his son in Iraq. Take a listen.
American soldiers of the 10th Mountain Division scaled that 1,800-foot cliff at night, caught the Germans by surprise, captured key positions, and broke through the German defense line at a pivotal point in the war. Just imagine, I mean it sincerely, I say this as a father of a man who won the Bronze Star, the Conspicuous Service Medal, and lost his life in Iraq.
All right, Chris, we're going to actually talk more about this in Rapid Reactions. His son died of brain cancer in 2015.
Bo.
This is, we've heard him make gaffes and slip-ups before. This is a big one, though. This has to do with his son.
This is a big one, and I think this is part of the reason why you're not seeing him in some of these important swing races around the country, because of his cognitive decline. We used to say, hey, that's old Joe, this is what he does, he makes gaffes, but some of these gaffes now are just plainly bizarre. He had the gaffe the other day where he talked about his house caught on fire and 2 firefighters almost lost their lives. We learned later that that was a complete fabrication. So like John Fetterman, I think the president is suffering from some cognitive decline, and it's becoming more and more obvious.
Well, and the media, Mark, is carrying the water for Joe Biden. The New York Times has an article out calling Joe Biden the storyteller in chief. He spins yarns that often unravel. Imagine the New York Times writing an article about Donald Trump saying that he spins yarns that often unravel. The Times went on to say, this is a quote, President Biden has been unable to break himself of the habit of embellishing narratives to weave a political identity. Mark, I wrote a few down. A week ago, Joe Biden said he was raised by Puerto Ricans. Several months ago, he said he used to drive an 18-wheeler. He got in trouble for saying that he graduated at the top of his law school class. That was a lie. He said he got arrested trying to visit Nelson Mandela in South Africa. Just recently, he called everybody that was unvaccinated. He said that this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. That proved to be false as well. Mark, how big a problem is this? His son, Bo, tragically died of brain cancer in 2015. He did not die in Iraq.
Well, on that one, the president believes that what caused Bo's brain cancer were things that happened to him while he was serving in Iraq, and I think he just was shorthanding it there.
Mark, that might be true, but he definitely wasn't raised by Puerto Ricans in Scranton, Pennsylvania either.
Well, so I'm a kind of a student of Joe Biden's mouth, and I think there are 3 different issues. One is gaffes. He just says things that he shouldn't say because he speaks imprecisely. 2 is he embellishes. He tells stories to make himself look better. And then the third is the things that I think are the product of cognitive decline. And I try to keep them all separate because I think all 3 of them need sort of different levels of accountability and different levels of explanation of why he's doing what he's doing.
We'll leave it there. If I could, Mark, I'd like to add a 4th, and that would be that Joe Biden has been in the swamp for 50 years. The media has protected him for 50 years, so he knows he can get away with it. That's why he continues to do it. Write that down. Never eat shredded wheat. North, east, south, west. That's how you learned it when you were a little kid. Never eat shredded wheat. All right, we'll do this again top of the hour. Thank you, guys. Let's welcome in Alex Kramer. She's got a look at headlines. Alex, good morning.